This is the 2020th episode ever. Welcome to From Center Ice, the shorthanded series where it is just me, Courtney, talking to you about hockey things. Today, I'm going to talk to you about emotions. Not really. Well, kind of. I do have a lot of emotions about this team, but before we jump into that, how are you? This year has been absolutely stupid. Nothing about it is normal. 2020 definitely gets 10 and a game for unsportsmanlike conduct. Oh, what is this I'm hearing now? 2020 has been suspended for the rest of the season? Serves it well. Anyway, how are you doing without hockey on TV as a distraction? I must say, as much as the long stoppage between March and the playoffs or the play-ins or whatever it was, however much that sucked, having TV on all day once the playoffs came back was amazing. It was on from the time I woke up in the morning, basically until the time I went to bed. I would just flip from game to game to game. Oh, it was so fantastic. But now we don't have any hockey, and I keep seeing updates from past seasons popping up on my time hop, and it just makes me so sad because we should be watching hockey now. We should be in the second month of the hockey season. There would definitely be some strong storylines to talk about already. There usually is towards the beginning of the season. But alas, we don't have any hockey. It pretty much just ended, and there's no real start in sight. Of course, we have a few days that we can maybe look forward to. January, February. I think the last update from the American Hockey League was like February 4th, which would be a good birthday present for me. My birthday's February 11th, so it would be kind of close, but nothing is nailed down, nothing is definite. We don't know if there's going to be fans, no fans, some fans. There's really no new information about that. So it's been tough. We have had a brief moment of distraction here in the States with the Magic Men and their magic walls. You either get it or you don't, really. But if you have no idea what I'm talking about the election coverage, because that was a thing that just happened, and I was definitely glued to it, and yes, I am happy with the results. But going back to hockey, not only do we not have hockey when we should right now, or a definite start date, but since the end of the season, or I guess I should say since the Blackhawks ended their season officially, the most 2020 thing ever has happened. Can you guess what I'm about to say? Maybe, possibly. The Blackhawks let Corey Crawford go to free agency, and he signed with the New Jersey Devils. I'll have a whole episode discussing that further. I still haven't really been able to process it. I've mostly been trying to block it out, and that's a big reason why I haven't recorded an episode in a while, because if I did, inevitably I would have to mention it and talk about it. So this is my mention of it. I just really don't want to think about it. So I'll get to more Blackhawks nonsense in a moment, but before I jump into them and just get full of frustration, I thought I'd bring up some of the other big moves from around the league. So the last episode was talking about goaltending and how so many goalies were at the end of their contracts. And there was a lot of uncertainty about where any of them would be going. But now we mostly have all of them nailed down. So Henrik Lundqvist, he ended his 15-season career with the New York Rangers by signing a one-year contract with the Washington Capitals worth $1.5 million. And I guess I shouldn't say he ended his career with the Rangers, they kind of ended it for him by buying him out, which wasn't really a shock to the hockey world, I want to say. Maybe it was a shock just because when you think New York Rangers, you think Henrik Lundqvist and vice versa. but it had been rumored for a little bit, and they do have two young goaltenders in Shesterkin and Georgiev coming up. So it makes sense, but it's going to be very weird seeing him playing for the Caps instead of the Rangers. And with him moving to Washington, where they also have another young goaltender coming up, Braden Holtby signed a 2-year contract with the Vancouver Canucks worth $4.3 million per season. We all kind of knew he was done with the Caps at the end of this season, but that's going to be another goaltender that is very weird to see in another uniform. I watched Holtby's first playoff run with the Caps, so seeing him kind of starting his career in the NHL, I've always been sort of drawn to him and wanting to see his success and see how his seasons go. And now I get to watch him with the Vancouver Canucks. So that'll be interesting. And with Holtby going to the Canucks, Jacob Markstrom moved on. So I didn't really plan for this to be kind of in order with how it shook out from the top, but that just seemed to be how it worked out once I started writing down these numbers. So Markstrom went over to Calgary and signed a 6-year contract worth $6 million per year. That was one of the longer contracts that we saw signed during this free agency period. But good for him. We'll see what Holtby does in Vancouver. We'll see what kind of split they give him and Thatcher Demko. That'll be pretty interesting. And then Matt Murray, who was rumored to be going to Chicago at one point, but whose rights were traded to Ottawa, he signed a 4-year deal with the Senators worth $6.25 per year. At that number, I'm pretty glad that Chicago didn't get that one to work out. Moving on from goaltenders for just a moment, Mark Borowiecki, who played for 9 seasons in Ottawa, moved on to Nashville and signed a 2-year deal worth $2 million per year. We figured out that Anton Khudobin re-signed with Dallas for 3 years, and his contract is $3.3 per year, $3.3 million, of course. It's really like 3.33333. I don't know what it is about the threes. Maybe he has some superstition around threes. Who knows? Goalies are weird. But that was a no-brainer, especially after he got them all the way to the Stanley Cup final. You can't just move on, especially if he had interest in returning. And for such a decent price, no-brainer. Kevin Shattenkirk signed a 3-year deal in Anaheim worth $3.9 million per year, so he goes from winning the Cup in Tampa out to Anaheim, which the Ducks probably aren't going to win the Cup anytime soon, but good for him. He was another player who was bought out by the Rangers just last year, and he redeemed himself in Tampa and got himself a pretty good contract, so good for him. Torrey Krug was another guy that was heavily watched in free agency. Going from Boston, he signed in St. Louis for 7 years, worth $6.5 million per year. Of course, because of that, St. Louis was not able to sign Pietrangelo. He went to the Vegas Golden Knights, which then led Nate Schmidt to go to Vancouver. It's been a lot of player maneuvering in this offseason so far. Thomas Greiss went from the Island to Detroit for 2 years at a price of $3.6 million per year, which is an interesting choice to make as a free agent, going from 2 consecutive playoff appearances to Detroit. Not really sure what the thought process was there, but I guess if he just wants to be the guy, he can be the guy in Detroit. I don't see them making the playoffs, but hey, stranger things have happened. Again, with strange things happening, Taylor Hall, one of the most sought after free agents this offseason, decided to sign in Buffalo. Yes, the Buffalo Sabres for 1 year at $8 million. dollars. And that is one gamble of a contract. Of course, if he has a great year, stays healthy, it could turn out really well for him, and maybe the cap situation will look better at the end of next season, depending on where this whole COVID mess is, I guess. But if he has a bad season in Buffalo or if he gets injured, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch, that's for sure. But hopefully he has a great year in Buffalo and can get a better contract after this. But that's left to be seen, I guess. I'm sure Jack Eichel's pretty happy about it. And Toronto made some big splashes this offseason. They signed TJ Brody for 4 years at a contract worth $5 million per year, so they finally have another guy on the back end who can play defense. They also signed Wayne Simmons for 1 year and Jumbo Joe Thornton for 1 year. I love all of these moves for Toronto. I am really excited to see what this team looks like next year. They have some more veterans on the team now. Maybe they can help the young guys. We'll see. It'll definitely be very interesting, but I think Toronto will be more, I can't say more fun because they've been a fun team since they had all of their young kids come up, but maybe more of a competitive team, I should say. It'll definitely be interesting. And there have been so many more signings and some trades, but we'll get to those as they make sense until the season starts. But we might as well get to Chicago before I'm rambling on about the rest of the league here. And all I have to say is, what the actual fuck is Chicago doing? What the fuck is Chicago doing? They let Crawford go to free agency, and after free agency opened, their one trade was moving Brandon Saad and Dennis Gilbert to Colorado for Nikita Zadorov and Anton Lindholm, who is just a throw-in. Bowman came out and openly said they were rebuilding, which then led to Jonathan Toews speaking to The Athletic, saying that the players never heard anything about a rebuild and this is news to them, which then led Stan Bowman to go on a media tour, basically, and said they aren't doing anything different than they were before. They're just being more open and transparent with their fans. And all I have to say to that is, what? What do you mean? Nothing about what this team has done has suggested anything about a rebuild. They weren't a good team this year, but their moves in the offseason suggested that maybe they wanted to be. They went out and they got DeHaan, they got Shaw back, they got Zach Smith and Carpenter. None of those guys are young. They let go of Henry Jokiharju. They signed Robin Lehner. So they got a bunch of veteran players. That doesn't suggest a rebuild at all. And then they basically let most of these guys go. They traded Lehner at the trade deadline. They let Crawford go to free agency. So those two things do suggest a rebuild. But nothing else that they have done says that at all. So then you ask the question, are they retooling? And to that I have to say, clearly not. We have no goaltending. We're not signing any free agents, really. We signed Matthias Janmark and Lucas Wallmark, but we're not trading for effective players. We're not trading for younger players, really. I mean, Zadorov's a bit younger than Brandon Saad, but they play two different positions. We're not getting draft picks. We're not getting prospects. So it's not a rebuild. It's not a retool, because we're getting rid of effective players from the playoff run. And I just don't understand. If their plan has been to rebuild for a few years now, why get Robin Lehner in the first place? why wouldn't you have one of these goaltenders that you're just moving forward with, because we're not acquiring any new goaltenders? Why wouldn't you let one of them play the backup role to Crawford and see if one of them could steal the job from him? And when we came back for the play-in series and the first round of the playoffs, why did Corey Crawford play the whole time? Malcolm Subban was backing him up. If your whole plan was to get rid of Crawford and move forward with the young goaltenders, why wouldn't you play them instead? There's no way we were making it past the first round, and if by some miracle we did, there's no way we were getting to the cup. So why not get those goaltenders some actual experience instead of just benching them? I I don't get it. Um Everyone assumes going into next season, between all of the goaltenders, that Colin Delia will probably get the starting role. And I could see it happening, but they've been giving Malcolm Subban the best chance, really. Like I said, he was the backup to Crawford in the playoffs. I don't know if they're just doing that because they want to get something out of that Robin Lehner trade, so they want Subban to work out, and I mean, I hope he does. He was a former first round draft pick, but I don't know. And then we traded Dylan Secura for Brandon Peary. They're getting older. Um, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. Uh, and when we did trade Leonard, why get such a terrible return? He clearly had value, one of the best goaltenders in the league. So, bleh, I don't understand. I don't think they know what they're doing. It's like they're trying to do what the Rangers did and come out and say, we're rebuilding and you got to be patient with us. But the Blackhawks are doing it with no actual thought put into it and no brain cells attached to this plan. It's just like a band-aid to to put over their terrible moves that they've made and make it seem like they're doing something. But they're not doing anything. And I just don't get it. I don't get it. And they really don't seem like they're ever investing in their AHL team to develop their young guys. We can't develop young players. Who was the last guy we developed? Maybe Saad Shaw? And that was years ago now. Uh, the closest thing to helping out Rockford and developing those players was bringing in Jeremy Colliton as a coach. And then as soon as they did that, they gave him a year, and then they fired Coach Q and brought him up to the NHL. So I don't get it. They're one of the richest teams in the league. A lot of teams have huge analytics departments and player development systems and good scouting, whether pro scouting or scouting prospects, but it's like the Hawks are stuck in 2010. They were really good, they had a boatload of superstars, and that covered up for them not progressing with the times of the league. So now we're just kind of stuck in this place where they say we're rebuilding, the players say we're not rebuilding, so then Bowman comes out saying, yes, we are rebuilding, but our plan hasn't gotten any different from how it was before. None of it makes any sense. I was listening to his interviews that he did, and none of them made any sense at all. I wasn't on the get rid of Stan Bowman trade before because I don't really know. I don't really know why. I can't explain it. It was one of those thoughts that was just like, okay, but who do we replace him with? And yes, he's made some bad deals, but he's also made some good deals. Most recently, probably getting Kubalik for a 5th round pick. And we did re-sign him, thankfully, for a not too terrible price. So you sometimes you have to take the good with the bad, but at this point, it's just starting to be more bad because it doesn't make sense at all. And I guess that's why this is the most 2020 episode ever, because I'm just confused about what is happening because nothing makes sense, just like this fucking year that we're in. So at this point, I'm just... Stan needs to go. He's had a good run here, but his time is up, just like it was for Coach Q, and just like it was for John McDonough. We need to get someone younger, someone more forward-thinking. Even if Bowman does have good ideas, he's been around this old mindset of the team for way too long. I feel like we just need to bring in fresh blood and have somebody with an outside look at the team, seeing what other teams around the league are doing to actually get better and improve their prospects and help them develop, and then bring that insight into the front office instead of having these guys around forever who have just been here since they lucked out and had everybody develop at a crazy pace, had fantastic defense with Seabrook and Keith and Hjalmarsson, and had the goaltending, which they got lucky with Niemi in 2010, and then Crawford turned into an absolute stud. They've just gotten lucky. And I think they've just been relying on the success of all of these guys for a decade now, and now they're getting older, and now we don't have most of those guys anymore. You still have Keith, you technically have Seabrook, that's still up in the air, and then you have Taves and Kane, and now we have a younger core coming up with Kirby Doc and Alex DeBrincat. Maybe Dylan Strome, he's still unsigned, but we have Alex Boquist, Ian Mitchell, all of these guys, so we need somebody else who hasn't been around forever, who can talk to these guys and have ideas about how to develop our prospects and how to improve the coaching staff and the player development staff in Rockford so we can have that farm system down there doing what it's supposed to do, instead of just going out there and throwing players on the ice and hoping that something sticks. We actually need a plan. And I just don't see that happening. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not in these meetings. I'm clearly not in the front office, or I wouldn't be sitting here recording this episode. So I guess we'll see what happens. All we can really do is give them another year and see if they mean what they say, that they're just chugging along on this plan that they have and they know what they're doing. But I have my doubts. I guess we shall see. But I don't know. With all that being said, that's where I'm going to end this episode. We have a brand new website now. You can check that out. It's nice and pretty, just from centerice.com. Yeah, if you enjoyed this episode or enjoy listening in general, head over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. I would greatly appreciate it, and I will talk to y'all next time. Bye! Thank you all for watching. Please hit that subscribe button to catch more From Center Ice content. If you could, hit the like button on this video, maybe share it with a friend or two. And while you're here, check out the podcast playlist and catch up on some old episodes. We will catch y'all next time. Bye!